Have you felt it? That weird, lingering sense of unease? Even though the lockdowns are officially over, things just don't feel normal. We're supposed to be back to our old lives, but for so many of us, something just feels off. The question is, why?
So let's start with a pretty big idea. What if the COVID-19 lockdown didn't actually create this feeling of being trapped? What if all it did was act like a giant magnifying glass, showing us a confinement that was already there, hiding just beneath the surface? That's the core idea we're going to unpack. We're going to explore this concept that some thinkers are calling the lockdown imaginary. It's this idea that the claustrophobia we all felt during the pandemic wasn't just temporary. It's like it revealed a slow foreclosure of our lives that's actually been building for years.
To really get to the bottom of this, we're going to use what you could call a Matryoshka doll method. You know those Russian nesting dolls? We'll start with that outer shell, that general feeling of unease, and then we'll peel back the layers of theory, one by one, to get to the very heart of why our world feels so closed in. Let's crack open that first layer.
Okay, first layer. This brings us to the philosopher Jean Baudrillard and his super famous idea about Disneyland. He said it's more than just an escape. He called it a deterrence machine, something designed to convince us that there's a real world waiting for us just outside its gates.
So Baudrillard's whole point was that Disneyland's perfect manufactured fantasy exists to make the rest of America, with its own scripts and consumer-driven rules, feel authentic by comparison. The hyper-fake world inside makes the regular fake world outside seem real. It's an illusion to mask another illusion.
And this connects right back to us. The theory here is that the pandemic lockdown was our Disneyland. It was such an extreme, in-your-face version of confinement that it made our pre-pandemic lives seem totally free. But in reality, it was just hiding the fact that our lives were already getting less real and a lot more confined than we ever realized.
And look, this feeling of being boxed in, it didn't just pop up out of nowhere in 2020. You can trace its roots back. It really started building after the 2008 global financial crisis, a moment that completely shattered our sense of reality. Then came the smartphone decade, which put the whole world in our hands, but also put us in a new kind of box.
And that brings us to the tiny doll at the very center of it all, a concept called claustropolitanism. It's the perfect word for this condition we're in, where we feel trapped or foreclosed. It's that gut feeling that the future isn't as open as it used to be, that culture is moving too fast to keep up, and that technology is just everywhere.
Now, to really understand how big a shift this is, you got to compare it to the idea that came before it. For a long time, we talked about cosmopolitanism, this really optimistic view of the world opening up, becoming more connected and full of possibilities. Well, claustropolitanism is its dark twin. It's a worldview of closing in, full of anxiety, digital isolation, and this nagging sense that the best days are behind us.
And this isn't just some abstract theory, right? It's how we live. We've become locked citizens. We spend our time scrolling through a perfect, curated world on our screens, but it's a world we can only look at. It's like we're watching life through a window, never really feeling like we're part of it.
And of course, you've seen the symptoms of this everywhere. It's the explosion of what you could call digital guru media. All the wellness influencers, the life coaches on TikTok, the meditation and productivity apps. As our trust in old-school experts has crumbled, these new digital gurus have rushed in to sell us solutions.
And these solutions are very, very big business. $4,995, that's what it costs for just one ticket to a Tony Robbins event. It just goes to show, in this claustrophobic world, self-help has become a luxury good. We're essentially buying back a sense of control and a life that feels totally out of our hands.
And this feeling of foreclosure, it's crept into every corner of our lives, even our free time. Your leisure isn't really a space for you to discover things anymore. It's a space where your behavior is predicted, analyzed, and then sold back to you as perfectly curated content designed to keep you hooked.
So how exactly does that work? Well, a lot of it is driven by something called the bandit algorithm. And yes, it is named after a slot machine, which tells you everything you need to know. First, it explores. It throws new stuff at you to see what you like. Then, it records everything, your clicks, how long you watch, what you share. And finally, it exploits that data. It cashes in by feeding you a non-stop stream of stuff it knows you can't look away from.
So what's the psychological fallout from being stuck in this loop? The theorist Mark Fisher had a great term for it: depressive hedonia. It's this state where we're constantly chasing these little hits of easy pleasure, endless scrolling, binge watching. But none of it ever actually satisfies us. It leaves us in this weird state of agitated paralysis.
We're always stimulated, but we're never fulfilled.
Okay, so what's driving all of this? Underneath it all is a fundamental change in our economy. We've shifted from good old consumer capitalism, which made money by selling us products, to what you could call informational capitalism. And in this new system, the most valuable commodities aren't physical things. They're immaterial, our data, and more importantly, our attention.
Which brings us to our final and most powerful piece of theory. The economist Yanis Varoufakis argues we're not even in capitalism anymore. He says we're entering a new age of techno-feudalism. In this system, the owners of the big digital platforms are the new feudal lords. And us, we're the digital serfs, working for free on their land, generating the data that makes them unbelievably wealthy.
Let that sink in. When you're scrolling on a social media app, you're not the customer. In this system, your attention is a resource being mined from you. It's a form of labor. It's the rent you pay to the digital lords for the privilege of living in their digital kingdom.
So this all leaves us with a pretty heavy question. If we really are living in a new age of digital serfdom, where our attention is the new currency and our data is the crop being harvested, who exactly is our lord?